Hello everyone, and welcome to the Daily War Brief program. Iran wants to end the conflict with the United States as quickly as possible. This is the latest statement from Iran's president on April 20. He strongly desires to end the war immediately in order to focus on rebuilding the country. He believes Iran must recognize that continuing the conflict brings no benefit to anyone, not to Iran, not to the other side, and not to the future of the region or future generations. Diplomacy must be used to reduce tensions. After the fighting ends, the country will face major challenges in reconstruction, ensuring financial resources and stabilizing the market. At the same time, Iran's president also emphasized that the people must be informed about the true situation of the country. Providing inaccurate information or unrealistic promises will not help solve problems. Instead, it will erode public trust in the government. This information has surprised many people because Iran's president has now officially acknowledged the country's difficulties. His statements also suggest that Iranian media may still be trying to conceal the harsh reality. That is why he called for transparency, so that citizens can understand the real situation. This is a sign that internal divisions within Iran are becoming very strong. The president belongs to the moderate pro-peace faction, wanting to end the war and focus on economic development, especially as U.S. sanctions are severely restricting the country and people are struggling to survive. However, that is only the perspective of the president who does not hold ultimate power in Iran. The most powerful figure right now is Vahidi, the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, often described as the regime's iron fist. From his standpoint, the approach is hardline and pro-war, to confront the U.S. to the very end, with no negotiation or compromise. It is this figure who has effectively slapped down those calling for negotiations with the U.S., including Iran's foreign minister. A clear example is when the foreign minister recently posted on social media that the Strait of Hormuz had been fully reopened for commercial vessels. Immediately, global oil prices dropped, and Donald Trump used this as an achievement to boast about online. But just one day later, the IRGC reversed the situation, and the strait was closed again. Some sources even suggest the IRGC was angered that the foreign minister had de-escalated tensions with the U.S. without consulting them. The hardline faction, particularly the IRGC leadership, wants to push oil prices as high as possible to pressure Donald Trump. However, the foreign minister's announcement of reopening the Strait of Hormuz caused oil prices to fall, effectively handing Trump a political advantage. Members of the IRGC naval forces even directly criticized the foreign minister, saying, "We opened the Strait of Hormuz under orders from Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei, not because of some foolish statement by anyone." They suggested the foreign ministry should reconsider how it communicates. This clearly shows how divided Iran's internal situation is right now. Looking back, many now understand that when Donald Trump previously claimed he was negotiating with Iran, he was likely talking to the moderate faction, including the president and foreign minister. However, these figures do not hold the highest authority, so agreements reached in negotiations keep collapsing. At the negotiating table, both sides may agree on various terms, and Trump quickly announces them publicly. But just hours later, Iran's hardline faction rejects them. This is what makes the situation so confusing. Information constantly changes, making it hard to determine what is actually happening. Many analysts speculate that the U.S. is negotiating with Iran's moderate faction, while real power, military control, and decision-making lies with the hardliners. And those hardliners aim to pressure and undermine Donald Trump's credibility. So whenever Trump makes a public statement, they counter it with the opposite stance. Of course, this remains a theory, and no one can be 100% certain about internal dynamics, but it is plausible, as similar patterns have repeated multiple times. As for Donald Trump, he seems to understand this situation well. Still, he remains cautious, stating, "I will not rush into signing a bad deal, we have plenty of time." This statement reminds many people of his poker-playing style. Trump, who once owned one of the largest casinos in the world, advertised as the eighth wonder of the world, approaches this like a poker game. The U.S. believes it has a strong hand, so there is no need to rush. Instead, both sides keep raising the stakes, trying to read each other's cards. It may come down to the final card, the river, before Trump decides whether to go all in. At this moment, it's extremely difficult to make a decisive move. 2. Trump himself likely does not fully know what cards Iran is holding. And likewise, Iran cannot be sure what Trump is holding either, because he is highly unpredictable. Trump might be acting as if he holds an incredibly strong hand like a straight flush, challenging the other side to call his bluff. Meanwhile, Iran might actually have a powerful hand, or it could just be bluffing. That uncertainty makes everything risky. There is also the possibility that one side is bluffing with a weak hand, which would damage credibility if exposed. That's why making the right decision now is extremely difficult. Moreover, Trump himself has a complicated history with gambling. He once spent $1.2 billion building a casino, which he promoted as the eighth wonder of the world, only to later sell it for just a few cents after heavy losses. That experience has clearly left a lasting impression on him. Because of that, in this poker game with Iran, Trump is being very cautious and not rushing into a decision. It is known that the 2-week ceasefire deadline is about to expire. By the evening of April 22, the critical moment will arrive. No one knows whether Trump will extend it again or go all in. Both sides have already issued numerous threats. The U.S. has intercepted Iranian cargo ships and detained their crews. The question now is whether further actions will follow, such as attacking power plants or destroying bridges, as Trump previously suggested. Will Iran mobilize civilians to surround key infrastructure again? No one can predict what will happen next. At this point, the whole world is simply hoping that both sides will make decisions with clear minds, decisions that minimize harm to civilians, because ordinary people have already suffered enough.